to AOK Games. Today I am here with the version 1.0.1 iniBuilds just released and first patched Airbus A350-1000 variant. Now this aircraft also comes in the 900 variant. We are currently clearly in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, but the plane is available in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Now for $80, I'd propose, if ever there were a value in saying study level or justification for that type of price, this would be the aircraft. Now I've had some issues with it, and most of them have been rectified. And it comes in the version that, this aircraft seems to benefit for sure by utilizing the Sim 1 service update 1 beta currently. Now that'll obviously be a stable release at some point. So if you don't want to run beta, that's fine. But I've noticed, and it is highly, highly recommended, regardless of whether you're using 2020 or 2024, to use the service update 1, at least for 2024. So that being said, the reason for that is because, well, I'm not a developer, but I am using SimBrief, I am using Navigraph, and I do want to explore the brake to vacate, which I have tried on a long haul flight. No time compression, fuel burn is accurate, and the brake to vacate actually worked for me flying into Honolulu flawlessly. I was deeply impressed by that. So what I want to do is break these this series of this aircraft into multiple videos, because I'd like to go into detail. You can't really do this plane justice unless you sort of focus in on each of the areas, meaning interior, exterior, the flight deck, all of the controls, everything that makes this aircraft what I believe a value for $80, because essentially, to me, in my opinion, this aircraft is the simulation of simulations within a simulation, right? It is highly, highly detailed. I mean, the purpose of me walking through this and talking at the same time is to hopefully save you all time throughout your day, or whenever you watch this. Hopefully you get an appreciation for, just looking down here, right, at the brake wear indicators, right, we can see these values. Now this aircraft does have wear and tear and serviceability, which I will show you on the Airbus EFB, and needless to say, there is no corners cut here on modeling or detail. The service plaques, the springs, the scissor links, they are all, I would say, photorealistic for sure. The hydraulic lines, everything you've got here is 100% just of top quality. Even the disfiguration of the tires due to the weight on wheels, it's just really, really cool to see detail like that. Now, I have noticed there were several bugs, which I won't even mention because they were addressed in this version 1.01, having to do with, looking through some of these panels. You could see straight through the top of the airplane, but that has now been patched, as I suspected it was always going to be patched. So that's cool. It is definitely an aircraft built by iniBuilds, who are known for their high-end aircraft. I can say and lay stake that I have flown many, many quote-unquote study-level aircraft in Flight Simulator 2020 from all of the top brand developers. And this, by far, whether it's due to the WASM or the SimBrief integration or the Navigraph or the brake to vacate or the taxi ramp maps that we'll get into and I'll show you, the whole kit, I would say, in my opinion, arguably makes this the most detailed civilian flight simulator simulation that I have ever got my hands on and flown. It's incredible. You'll see. Now, I'm talking, as I said, to save us all some time, but I'm just looking around out here, and trying to show you all what the package offers. These engines are indeed the Rolls-Royce Trent 97s. They produce approximately 97,000 pounds of thrust on the 1000 variant of this A350, which is a lot. I mean, not too many years ago, 97,000 pounds of thrust was very, very comparable to the GE90s on the 777 Boeing, and those engines were one of the strongest engines, well, even to date, in terms of power to weight ratio and just raw thrust that have ever been on a civilian airliner. And now we're just looking at, you know, the Trent 97 like it's nobody's business. Just nice and easy and efficient, lots of fuel savings. This is space age composites. This whole aircraft is, you know, extremely advanced technology wise. So to have 97,000 pounds of thrust per side, well, it's a performer. It is a performer. And we'll make that loop almost like a pilot's walk around so that you can see those features. I'd like to go inside now and let's check out the cabin, and then after that we'll move to the pilot and command position so I can start showing you the systems, so that in the second video on the rollout here at Tokyo Narita, because we're going to Hong Kong today, so we'll do that in the second video. But for now, I'd like to just go in depth with all this. So thanks for joining me. Let's hop on board and get right to the cabin space. So first things first, obviously a functional door as we walk out through the cabin here. And I'm looking for doors and things of that nature. We're talking about detail here that's really nice. I mean, flushable toilets, right? Whew. And just the level of detail in the actual texturing is really, really nice to see. Removable curtains. Curtains there. I suppose I'm still clicking on the curtain spots. Doors, right? And then that'll take you outside, so if you just want to actually come back outside and then go back in, you can even click the handles to do so. Flight attendant jump seats here, and then you've got the airline, Cathay Pacific. So at least at the time of this video, I looked up some routes, and we are going to Hong Kong, which is really cool because the sim brief and the import know that we are going to Hong Kong, and it knows that we are in Tokyo Narita. So this is, I believe, a Cathay Pacific, at least, if not daily, it's at least a weekly flight in real life. So, you know, it's not too nice outside as you saw with the rain, but I like to fly with the real world weather. It kind of gives the aircraft the ability to perform in conditions, hopefully, that, you know, it would perform, you know, adequately in the real world as it's going on. So, you know, we can forget the clear skies. I definitely like the realism of, you know, just getting to it, not having any clear blue skies, but dealing with the day as we would if we were real airline pilots. So, you know, we travel from the front to the back, see our first class, and then our business, and then our economy. So I suppose Cathay is a 333 in economy with the seating arrangements. I know that when you look on the onboard EFB built into the cabin panel there in the front, you will be able to notice a lot of the features, the seating layouts, and, you know, the antennas, all the things like that externally and internally are done based off of what the livery choice is. So it also brings me to the install. The install of this aircraft is, you know, this was clearly a third-party aircraft, and the software to install it was very, very easy. It asked me for my SimBrief ID. I plugged it in right during installation. I put it in on the EFB in the sim, and it worked. There were no issues. It was very easy. The liveries are also done in-house, as stated on the, at least the installer page. So you get a great variety of 900 and 1000 liveries. I have the Virgin Atlantic installed, I have the Etihad, I have this, clearly the Cathay Pacific, and I have Qatar because I figured I wanted to try flights all around the world. Now this aircraft is capable of 8,700 nautical miles and almost 400 passengers, or probably a little less. It depends on the cabin and who the airline is. Normally, the plane in SimBrief likes to load up with 330, 340 passengers, plus baggage weight and everything. But 8,700 nautical miles for the 1000. The 900 is a little bit shorter, but 16,100 kilometer range in nautical miles is just 16,100 kilometers, period. In range is just, it's far. This aircraft, if you are looking for long haul in 2020 or 2024 for the price, offers an extremely compelling package, in my opinion, that can serve you any two gates around the world, wherever you are leaving from. This plane goes so far that it's almost obnoxious to sit here. It's like, go ahead and go out and do your day, cut your grass, go to bed, wake up, go to work, come back, and the plane still has fuel in the tanks. So for simulation level, study level, long range, if this is your bag and this is what you like, this aircraft, for sure, fit and finish, quality of simulation is a very, very nice chip to bargain with. So that being said, we are hopping back into, of course, the crew cabin here, also known as the cockpit. And it is also one of the most important places, right? Because this is where you're going to arguably be spending a lot of your time. And there are a lot of click spots here, a lot of things that open and close, some avionics bays, things down there. You know, all the racks, even to the point where it's like, man, just being able to come down here and see all this, right, is like, my goodness. So, nice feature. All the routing of the plumbing there, pipes, conduits, what have you, and then back up. Nice to see that. Oxygen mask. We are able to press on these. I won't, because I don't want to inadvertently deploy stuff that I should not be deploying. But check on this side. More clickables. And I even like, it's a silly detail, but how about the pen? iniBuilds blue ballpoint pen, presumably. Okay, so let's go ahead and sit in the piloting command position and explain some more details here. So when I talk about the onboard EFB, right, the cool thing about this plane is the options. So I'll just scroll through these and we'll start at the top of the aircraft. And if you want to take any extra time to look at it, please do. Just pause the video. But you've got your inertial reference system, you know, your GPS, if you want it real fast or instant, all of the linked instruments, meaning your barometric pressure and all that, you can have linked or not. Rudder tiller control, yes. Auto tiller disconnect over a certain speed, yes, that's cool. So display type, this is what I'm telling you about option managed by livery. So if anything were to be applicable and change, it would change automatically. So you cannot modify that. Weathering, you can weather the aircraft, which is nice. Now, I don't assume any A350s are that old, but if you look at the windows there, of course, you've got the stain marks and the drops. So that's really nice to see. You've got the paint pitting on the nose cone there. Now, naturally, if this is an airliner, there's weathering, but it's not going to be like wings that are half detached or tires that are flat, because, you know, if this is an airliner and it's meant to do long-haul flights, it's not going to be you know, a steaming pile, proverbially speaking. But OIS settings, auto brightness, right? You got your charts, which we are hooked up to Navigraph. We'll be utilizing that today. Brightness, weights, however you want that. Traditional kilograms, right? For Airbus or pounds, if you're more familiar and comfortable with that. Just have to be careful with the conversions, with the fuel and everything. So EFB boot time, I just have them all quick to save face and to save time. So there you go again with these, you know, managed by the livery. So it's nice to see that that's all maintained for you. You don't have to necessarily worry about, does my aircraft have that sat nav box on it just in the game, or is it like that in real life as well? So that's kind of cool to see. Reversers, they were very, very easy to set up. We are in fact working with the Airbus TCA quadrant and joystick, so these were just as simple as, you know, set your points and just click the button. It all worked flawlessly. So that's nice. Cabin, I have my cabin in English. I have had occasions where it doesn't speak in English, and I don't know if that's a current bug or not, but clearly it's listed as English, and that's okay, because again, they are actively working on everything. If you want the noise canceling, you can tell there's definitely a difference in sounds, and that's one thing I do want to mention. The sounds in this aircraft do not deserve to be canceled out and quieted. They are quite incredible, and I have adjusted them to my taste, but some of the sounds you might find to be louder or softer than you want, and I can show you that in the volume control. So this is where I have it. I like the engines to be more quiet on the inside, particularly because on a new aircraft you wouldn't expect it to sound like an old warbird and be super loud and obnoxious, but this is where I like it, so hopefully you can hear them all. I'll probably turn them up once we get out to the taxiway, that way you can hear the sounds as opposed to have them muted out, just for, you know, the experience. But yep, we are connected to Navigraph, and one thing I really, really like about Navigraph here and the way it's implemented here is that if you look down in our panel here, we do have, at least at the time of this video, current nav database, right? That, you know, requires a Navigraph subscription, but the cycle is 2502 revision 3. What's neat about that is you can just click this and it updates to the most modern internalization of that software, right, from the Navigraph. So it's really just point and click. It's that simple. So also we've got AFK mode. There is time compression, and that does manage, you know, fuel and burn and things like that. I like to keep it off because what I want to do is experience the actual fuel flow in real time. Today's flight is over, I don't know, it's almost 1,400 nautical miles or something like that from Tokyo Narita to Hong Kong. And I just want to get that fuel burn. We've got 24,000 kgs on board. I haven't synced up the sim brief yet, but that will invariably change. Now, everything here, for the most part, is 100% clickable. All the buttons, all the screens, all the charts, everything you see here is $80 worth of enjoyment. And what I mean by that is it's thorough. This has been done to an extremely high level. And if you fly any of the Airbuses by any third-party developer or even Asobo Microsoft themselves, you know that these are all really neat buttons to interact with, especially when it comes to monitoring systems and things like that. This aircraft is capable of SimBrief, VATSIM, right, for communications and cell call and all that. So it's there, and it's only going to get better as this aircraft has just come out. It's got a lot of cool stuff to offer. Again, another one of your Airbus panels that should be extremely familiar. The overhead of an Airbus could look no more brilliant, and I'd also like to mention, if you're seeing any static or haziness or non-clarity, I just want to point out that YouTube compresses its video, so for the sake of file size, what you're seeing on video is not what I'm seeing, meaning when I say photorealistic, it is absolutely higher render definition than what you will see on YouTube. So if it looks questionable with the textures, it's not. I assure you it is 100% YouTube compression, because this aircraft has some of the nicest photorealistic textures that I've seen in an aircraft to date. It is certainly not by any means anything that I would downgrade in terms of my opinion. It's really all there. Okay, so that essentially is a lot of the functionality there. I would like to also go in and take the time to, go through some of these panels here in this ground review video, so that you can essentially see these without having me have to show you in the flight video, because when we fly, in the next video I just want to fly. I don't want to have to review systems. So please feel free to pause if you want to look at any of these, but tire pressures, brake accumulator pressures, fuel, you've got your valves, right, that tell you, green what's functioning, orange what is not, where your electrical AC and DC is standing, your hydraulic fluids, and your flight controls, typical Airbus style, your APU, right, bleed airs, conditions of the cabin, and pressurization of the cabin, right? So when we look at that, that's all fine and dandy, but the 350 is clearly a little bit more modern and different than any other Airbus family, at least I would say excluding the A380, right? Because this is all A380. If you fly the fly-by-wire A380 freeware aircraft, this should be very familiar to you. And it as well is all here. One of the things that's different about this Airbus is I, for the longest time, struggled to figure out where's the TCAS, right? Because normally it's down here, right? You go to one of your panels and you just swap it over from off or standby to whatever, but here it's under the serve, right? So you've got your weather and your TAWS, terrain avoidance warning system, and you've got your transponder here, right? So you can set it all up just with the click of a button, which is really neat. We'll leave it off for now because, we're just doing a review, but the ability to do that is quite cool. Now, with these split screens, you have the checklist menus, which is really nice. You can go through these and just quietly and calmly do what you need to do to set everything up for takeoff. All of the menus are there, and they do, in fact, help quite a bit, as this is obviously a 2-pilot minimum in the real world in terms of being in the flight deck controlling the airplane. It takes a lot for one person to do all this. So these checklists are really helpful in functionality and flow. The biggest thing I notice about this aircraft is it's so complex that you have to stay in front of it. Just like any aircraft, it's something that you have to actively monitor. It flies by itself and it flies really well, but you do not want to get behind this. Particularly on an ILS landing like today, you do not want to get into a low visibility mode where you are catching up mentally and physically in the pilot and command position with this aircraft. So we'll go down to these menus and I'll turn off the options ability, but we'll go to the ground, and I wanted to show you we can put on the air supply unit and the ACU in there. We'll open up all these doors and we will go back outside, but before we do that, I would like to show you the sim brief, right? So you can import here and get all of your fuel weights and everything and sync it to the FMS. So it's very one button orientated. It's really easy. It's click. That's all you're doing. You're just clicking. There's no headache involved. You've got your Navigraph charts here, right? And you can just scroll on it, which this is really neat about the 350 aircraft in general. The fact that no longer do you really even need to open up any outside apps like Navigraph on your desktop or your iPad or anything like that. You can just do it all from inside of the aircraft. So you've also got your performance for takeoff, where again, it's real easy. You just upload, click the uplink real quick for the sim brief, and you just sync the weather, and you just compute, and you just send the FMS. All of your speeds are all right there. Your flex temperature for your takeoff, your runway, your maximum takeoff weight, everything. It's all there. Likewise with the landing, Same thing. Once you're airborne and you want to set this up, it works. Now, what's really cool about this, and it doesn't pertain particularly to this screen, however, when we throw our IRSs on up there, we can come down here and we can hit the button to go into the airport screen here, and this will turn from your PFD screen into an airport diagram. So rather than having just a terminal chart, right, you can go over to en route, and this is where your navigraph comes in. You can grab and click. Now we are at obviously Tokyo Narita, but you can grab and click on the other PFD, right, and all of these gates. So seeing this puts a very, very real perspective into where you are, and there's no more, you know, when they tell you Alpha, Bravo, Bravo, B4, A4, you know, and you're trying to get to your gate and you can't figure out what does that even mean, just come to this on the A350 and you are good. So this screen on the left can translate into this screen right here. And what's also entertaining about this is you can use the brake to vacate button that the Airbus has. So you can select your condition on what the runway and weather temperature is like, let the aircraft know, set up your spoilers, right? You can arm your ground spoilers and fly an ILS approach and tell this thing, well, it's dry or it's wet or it's snow, whatever it is, and tell it which runway taxiway you want to exit by, and it will automatically brake in enough time to stop you where you don't even have to touch the brakes. So I've tried it, it works flawlessly, but you just have to set it up to let the aircraft know. Now that feature, as a disclaimer, only is available with the navigraph. However, if you have an $80 aircraft, I would assume you would most definitely want, if possible, to enjoy this. Now this is a PC review, so I am not sure what the deal with Xbox is with navigraph, whether that's doable or not. I don't believe it is, but you know, I could be wrong. Comment below if I'm wrong. So that's the only thing. You need the navigraph for the brake to vacate, but it is really, really cool because no longer do you have to step in and slam on the brakes and not realize, oh, I could have had 100 more foot of rollout if I didn't slam on the brakes. So you would imagine that in the real world as being, you know, extremely abusive in a stop if you just hold the brakes down as hard as you can, as opposed to just letting the aircraft manage it. So in terms of quote-unquote role-playing and passenger comfort, that brake to vacate is extremely cool. So that being said, let me position myself back into the exterior position, and we'll go ahead and we'll look at all of the things here that I theoretically have opened up. Now if they're not open, let's go ahead and get those open. I'll go back to the maintenance here, and let's open all of the panels to the best of our abilities here. And then we'll go to ground, and those should hopefully all be open. And let's hop back outside. And just like that, the doors and all of the role-playing material is there for you. Being able to open things up and explore and service these engines. Like I said, the serviceability. This airplane does use oil. It does use hydraulics, it does burn up tires, it will burn up brakes. So having these open is sort of like, you know, you click open and then you service them. So having that functionality is really neat. Now this is an aircraft that I have only flown one time. So I flew the flight, I refilled the hydraulics, I refilled the oil, everything with that is indeed good. Even serviceability for the ram air turbine here, the rat as they were to call it. God forbid if your engines ever were to both flame out and you needed primary instruments like airspeed and altitude, things like that, this will turn with the wind stream and it powers primary systems. So that would theoretically and hopefully only deploy in an emergency, but it has been modeled. So that's really cool. The aircraft has indeed scheduled failures, so you can have failures to your heart's content if you want to set that up in that EFB. which is really nice. I mean, I guess from a simulation perspective, right, like nobody wants a failure ever in the real world. But the fact that this airplane has been extensively modeled like that is a really nice thing to see. I mean, even that grate right there, right, that nacelle outer panel, the way that it is actually not just a sticker of a grate, but an actual grate. A lot of the plumbing for the pneumatics, hydraulics, fuel filters or canisters for, who knows, hydraulics. Lots of electrical connections, cannon plugs. This engine is owned by iniBuilds Limited. All right then. So, nice to see. I mean, even the ground carts, right? Even these ground carts are at a high enough level, and even these air hoses and such are at a high enough level where, you know, they really help play the part, essentially, of what this aircraft delivers for $80. Okay, so the next part will be the part 2, and I want to get that started up. I'm not sure if it'll be a part 2 and a part 3, but if I do 3 videos, I suppose I could set up all the systems, and then the part 3 will just be the flight. Now, I'm not going to do the entire flight to save time for the 1,400 nautical miles. However, you know, I'll skip in and out of, you know, supercuts to save you guys as much time as possible. So for today, I hope that explained the price tag, the point value, the depth of the textures, the photorealism, the, you know, overall quality here, the system's depth, the button clicking, all of that. The sounds will come, the flight will come in the next 2 videos. So stay tuned for that. Thanks so much for joining me here. Hopefully you made it to the end, and we'll see you in the next round. For now, bye-bye.